Good evening, planet Earth, and welcome to another episode of Talk is Cheap, where cheap is talk and talk is cheap. Join us as we talk about some hieroglyphs in a unique place, as well as exactly how long we stuck to our New Year's resolutions. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting episode of Talk is Cheap. Joining me this evening, as always, to my right,
Dan Hohlfeld,
all right,
of course.
Dano, how's it
Used to
going?
this damn thing.
Yep, oh, that's all right. That's all right.
Not doing too bad here. We're in the midst of winter, about ready to hit the big cold freeze coming up. I'm not very excited about that, but I can always complain about the weather, and I'll never be happy.
Right, it's always something. So, are you still sticking to your New Year's resolution?
New Year's resolution. So I kind of was thinking about what the hell should I have for New Year's resolution, because I don't drink anymore. I switched to a mostly plant-based diet. So, I mean, what more can I do? And somebody's giving me the finger out in the audience, so I'm not going to look that way.
Yeah. All right. Well, Dan, I do have to commend you for your, 2017 was a hell of a year for you. You made some significant life changes. And I mean, seriously, you're a model to the other two panelists here as far as clean living and focusing on, dare I say, your awakening and stuff. So good job.
Yeah,
awesome.
Stepped up meditation, about an hour and a half meditation every day, give or take.
Yeah. Good job. I wish you the best in 2018. Let's do this.
Let's see what happens.
In the back of my mind, I'm keeping an eye on you, because I'm like, man, if this works for Dan, then I'll do it. But
the end goal is I hope I disappear from this plane of existence and I can go somewhere else where there's no money, living's easy, you don't have a government that's up your ass, and that'd be great.
And when that happens, I will be going over every episode of Talk is Cheap and every video you've ever put out with a fine-tooth comb, and I'm going to mimic what you're doing so I can join you.
Watch the evolution happen.
Right. And on the other side of him, Dusty, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
How about you? I got to ask you about your New Year's resolution. Still sticking to it?
No. Because I didn't make any.
Yeah.
No. I live life. Don't want to stop anything. That's right.
I'm the same way, man. I gave up on that long ago.
Yep.
Hopefully we can strive to achieve what Dan can through self-control and discipline and stuff.
Yeah.
But right now,
I was going to say you didn't have any resolutions either, huh?
No, not a one.
Okay.
You know why? Because all that does is sets people up for disappointment if they don't achieve it. Okay.
Yep.
And, right now, why put that negativity on my life? I'm living my life the way I want, and right now it suits me. If I reserve the right to change it at a moment's notice. I don't need a flip of a calendar, some construct that humans came up with, time and all that, to tell me to make a change. I'll make the change when I want to.
Or the lining of the planets.
Yeah.
What you don't know is you're a big Samoan off camera hitting that damn thing. He hit it again. He's getting excited, folks.
Sorry. That's awesome. All right. So, fellas.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We're going to talk a little bit about viewer-submitted topic. Lance reached us through the main contact page, so that was kind of cool. It wasn't a comment suggestion. So, Lance, make some comments, too. We're listening there as well. The Gosford Glyphs, hieroglyphs. The Gosford hieroglyphs. Lance had recommended we kind of take a look into Stephen and Evan Strong and their work that they've done on investigating these hieroglyphs. Lance, I apologize. I didn't get into too much of the Stephen and Evan Strong stuff. I found some other stuff that we're going to talk about, but they're mentioned in and amongst it. So
where are they at? Where are the glyphs at?
Australia.
Oh.
And coincidentally enough, it's my understanding that Lance, the viewer that suggested this, is also from Australia.
Oh,
so,
cool.
hey.
What a coincidence.
Yeah. I will spare you the cliche Australian accent greeting. So,
Oh, speaking of that, Twitter, Debonair Fox, when we were doing the social fix and I was doing a lot more of the media side of things, they're from Australia. And their Debonair Fox does a lot of stuff YouTube-wise down there. We talked once or twice on Twitter. Cool guys.
yeah, those Aussies, man, they seem, I don't know, maybe they just get us. And maybe
Won't
we should
go
make
there.
a trip down there.
Like the deadliest snake, scorpion, shark, plant, everything in the
yeah,
world, right? I'm
yeah,
not
they're
going down.
badasses. I would love to go down there, but I'd want a local to keep an eye on me. That's for
Dressed
sure.
in a suit of armor.
You know, yeah. I'd
Big
like
cojones
somebody that
down
knows
there
what's going
walking
on
around.
to keep me out of trouble because I can do that. So, anyway, basic story what we have here. Okay, about 4,000 years ago or so, 4,500 years ago, the story goes that a couple of high-ranking Egyptian brothers, sons of Khufu, who was an Egyptian king, were conducting trade in Australia. So we'll do the scratch record, where they slide the needle off the record thing. Okay, Egyptians were not supposed to be in Australia 4,500 years ago,
Yep.
but I would also like to point out there's other instances of the Egyptians with their mummies having traces of things like tobacco and cocaine, which were America type stuff in their system at the same time too. So there's an entire debate to be going on about how exactly far these people from Egypt and Africa actually traveled before we give them credit for it. So anyway.
Kind of on a side note, though, did you know that they think the Japanese or Chinese actually made it to the west coast of America, too?
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me at all one bit.
I was doing a little research on that.
Yeah, I will.
Pretty
Yep.
interesting.
That would have took forever by rowboat.
The Egyptians were
That's how they
supposedly
moved?
sailed. It had to have been sails. They had to have mastered sails with rowing.
rowing,
yeah.
I mean, the Vikings did it, so.
They weren't running no Mercury outboards. So.
Well,
Mercury outboard.
that we know of.
Mercury outboards.
We're not. No way sponsored by Mercury Outboards for everything that you need to do fishing.
Yeah. Nope. All right. That was not a plug for Mercury. That just what came to mind. Anyway, and the Egyptians were allegedly in the Grand Canyons too. There's a whole story around that. So anyway, these two brothers, they went down to Australia to conduct some trade or explore. One of them died. The brother scribed basically a eulogy on these sandstone walls down in a crevasse by New South Wales, Australia. Okay. It's been a subject of a lot of controversy and several translations. When I researched this, I found about 3 or 4 different actual translations of what people say the hieroglyphs said. For the topic tonight, the discussion tonight, I picked from an article that I found in 2017 what the latest, greatest translation was. So the hieroglyphs are at a place called Carryong, that's in New South Wales. It features 300 engravings on 2 large sandstone walls. And debate about this is that some people say it's 4,500-year-old, depicting like almost a proto Egyptian hieroglyphic language and stuff. So take a look at, here's one section of the wall, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk, I found an article that was debunking it kind of point by point. And so I took that article, and then with the newer information, I kind of have some rebuttals, but I have some big question marks too. So anyway, here's some of the glyphs. I don't know how versed you are in hieroglyphs.
I would say that one says science hook mitt boot.
Yep, very good. That would be awesome. This is the shepherd's cross, apparently, but we'll get into that a little bit later. And here's some more.
There's
Okay,
a penis.
that's the first thing I
That's the
noticed.
founding foundation.
Okay.
I thought we knew hieroglyphs really well, like read them through and through.
You'd think so, but there's like different variations of hieroglyphs, and there aren't a lot of people that study them. Hieroglyphs were originally, well, I shouldn't say originally, but you've heard of the Rosetta Stone, right? Hieroglyphs for many, many years were untranslatable. It was gibberish until they found the Rosetta Stone, which basically was a rock that had translations on it, more or less. Well, the Rosetta Stone didn't cover all of the hieroglyphs, and so there's been a lot of study and research and debate about what different signs mean. And
okay.
stuff.
Okay. What's the penis mean?
Gun.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So,
We can say penis, right?
As far as I know.
Okay.
I think the feminists like saying it, so it's okay.
I haven't been saying dick or anything else because I figured penis was scientifically accurate.
Okay, I think I've got another
Phallus.
one here. Okay, and here's some more. I just want us to take a look at that. That's kind of cool, right? The sun.
There's
here's
no
a
phallus.
bird. Here's another hand.
Mitt.
Yep.
It's like charades.
There's a charcoal grill over there.
There's a bell up there.
You know what that is?
Yeah.
That's this penguin got ate by that fucking snake, and now that penguin's the only penguin left on that rock.
Yep, that's exactly
it.
Yes. No, so anyway, we'll continue. Okay, so Khufu, remember, these are the two sons of Khufu.
Mm-hmm.
Khufu reigned around 2500 to around 2500 BC.
Okay.
So 4,500 years ago. Okay. Now, one of the people that say this is garbage, this is some of what they're talking about. First off is that some people say that, the people who promote this are not archaeologists or Egyptologists. They have no credentials in the field. Well, first off, my thought is that you don't need to have a piece of paper to be educated on a subject. And two, just wait, because we got some folks that have weighed in that have that sort of credential. Here were some of the original ones, original comments, because they did take photos of these and send them to Egyptologists around the world because they heard these crazy claims. So Professor Najib Kanawati from the Department of Egyptology at Macquarie University stated in 2011, so this is 7 years ago now. I'm sorry, it's still getting adjusted here.
Yeah.
A few years ago, I examined only from photographs these so-called Egyptian inscriptions. He is confident they mean nothing more than scratches and are made by an amateur.
Nice.
Okay, not a good review.
No.
Okay.
No.
The professor, another professor from the same place, Boyo Okinga, shares this view. It'd be wonderful, but it's not possible. First of all, the way they're cut is not the way ancient Egyptian rock inscriptions are produced, not using the same method, okay? That's not how they're produced. And they're very disorganized. There's problems with the shapes. There's no way people would have been inscribing text from the time of Cheops from signs that weren't invented until 2,500 years later. Ooh, so they have a mixture of hieroglyphs that our current historians say vary by over 2,000 years.
Oh, it'd be like us using thus in a sentence nowadays.
Yeah, it's like, okay, even just let's say like we're in 1980 and we're talking about Facebook or the internet or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Or or smartphones, right? It's like, whoa, they didn't have a clue what that was back then.
That would be so hard to describe if you think about it.
Yeah,
Like,
right?
I'm on this thing where everybody's connected and
You go to IBM, you're like, that big computer, got it right here.
And do it by chiseling pictures on a rock once and see what that gets. Okay. So this Boyo Okinga says that he estimates they were made in the 20s when there was widespread interest in Egypt after the discovery of King Tut, the tomb of King Tut. Many Australian soldiers were also returning from World War I at this time that had been stationed in Egypt. Okay. He says that there's examples other places in Australia where a sphinx and the pyramids had been carved, and it was known that it was done by a returning soldier. Okay.
Yeah, because they look new.
Okay. So they're not surprised to say someone who just had an interest or fascination came in and carved these. Okay. So I'm going to bring us back to the pictures again. Okay.
All right.
I like pictures.
Yep. So take it. I'm not saying that this is done by an Egyptian scribe, but that's somebody that's taken some serious time and dedication.
Yeah.
To go in there. Okay. Now in the website. Oh, I wanted to say too. I have information from like 3 or 4 or 5 different websites, so I apologize if it's like a little bit muddled and maybe I don't give the proper credit where it's due, but just Google it and you'll see.
Yeah, right.
You'll see very quickly where these come from, and thank you, Internet, for this information. Okay, so one of the big controversies too is, okay, the sons of Khufu. Well, we've got really good information about Khufu because they found his tomb, they found his sons and daughters' tombs, they found all this stuff. They know the names of a lot of his sons and daughters. The two sons mentioned on the hieroglyphs are not mentioned in Egypt. So according to the Egyptian transcription that they found in the tombs, these two were never listed as a son or a daughter of Khufu. Okay. They claim that the hieroglyphs tell no story. They're in a random order. But now this other expert has been saying, well, wait, they may have been carved as early as the 60s. So now we've got two experts, one who admittedly, I don't believe was actually at the site. I don't believe this other one was either. Said we have a 40-year difference of when they were created. And this is why he thinks it's in the 60s. The first person to document the site was a person named Alan Dash, surveying in the area in the 70s, and he noticed a man walking away from the site and heading toward a nearby abandoned cabin. Then Dash said, what's he doing over there? He found the hieroglyphs and noticed that nothing was carved into the east wall. Okay, so here's a guy.
Just happened to notice it.
Yeah, happened to notice it and says, wait a minute, it's only on one side. He made sure he only knew, I don't know how he, maybe he's that observant. And several months later, Dash returned and noticed, hey, we got carvings on the eastern wall. And then about a year later, more glyphs had been added, this time about 160 feet away.
Oh, Jesus.
Now, the only account of this occurrence I have is from this guy's website, so...
Close the door on that one. That one's done.
Right? Nice. Highly suspect, okay? And here's the thing. The cabin which Dash observed the man heading toward was frequently used by transients. And the man's identity was never learned. And then the cabin was destroyed in 1979. Okay, so wait a minute. The guy I saw walking was heading toward this cabin that's used by hobos because we have a problem with hobos carving hieroglyphs in all of our sandstone around here. So that's what's got to be, right? Okay.
And wait. If it's in the 60s, you would think that he would have enough information already on hieroglyphs to actually make it look and sound right. Wouldn't you think?
Well, if in the 60s, obviously books of Egyptian hieroglyphs were made available and you could just follow.
Unless this hobo is just like, I'm going to draw that I remember seeing on my travel.
Well, no, somebody had to at least have a basic
understanding.
Understanding and exposure to them.
In the 60s, you think they'd have a better understanding. They can make sound right.
Yep. So according to the website here, we do have, this is supposedly from 1983 that shows newly carved hieroglyphs. Okay. 1980. So depending on how far you want to stretch this, from the 1920s or let's say the 1960s to 1983, somebody was continuing to walk back into this area to continue to carve hieroglyphs.
Now these look more like just taken like a chalk. They're look less indented.
Right? Could it be the light playing? Could be exposure to the camera? That looks like a pretty, it's not a ton of color in there.
They look less sophisticated too, I think, compared to the last
ones we were looking at.
I don't know. They all looked really new to me. I don't know why, but
we're going to talk about that. Evidence. Oh yeah, continuing evidence of ongoing manipulation. This picture was taken.
That looks like a pharaoh god or something.
That's Anubis. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of unique that it's there because they refer to Suti, a different god, in the translation. But they said, okay, part of the debunking of this is that people are continuing to go there to continue to carve. And so this was some evidence they showed. This photo was taken 1983. Thank you, Dan. This photo was taken 1983 after they noticed the fresh carvings. Okay, so it's somewhere on here. Here it is. Fresh carving. Well, then they come back a few years later and take another picture. Look, notice the ears?
Wait.
Yeah, there's more detail.
There is.
All of a sudden.
Better camera?
I don't think so. So somebody came through.
It almost looks like the lines are more
Can you go down a little bit? It's just
defined and less janky, like the top one.
Yeah. Yep. And so these are supposedly freshly carved. These are, years later after some weathering.
Go back
occurred.
up a little bit again.
I was trying to look at the mouth and whatnot just to look at see
does-
the resolution.
It almost looks like one of the pictures is stretched a little goofy or something because
I was starting to wonder if they're even the same picture, but then
Right.
I see that crease right where the
Yeah.
ears are.
And it is the same, but it's definitely they did something to that picture to have that stand out because the rock's not gray or brown.
see doesn't
it's
this
blue.
doesn't this area in here look thicker than the area in here? Because the line is added to the outside of the ear from the top picture.
Yeah.
So that line is brought out here. And it looks way crisper. I mean, like, look at that and how deep that chunk is. And I guess it's still there, but it's weathered. Kind of looking at
same as
the
that
cheekbone area.
That thing there, yep.
Yeah, and anybody could come through and add on to these.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Well,
that's my point. How yes, that potentially could be it. Or some guy went up on some ancient hieroglyphs, and because maybe I want to protect the site, I don't want to let people know that it's been there, so I want to make it look like a hoax. I'm going to go out there with a chisel and do it. Oh, look at this! See, you can tell it's been manipulated.
Well, yeah, and on top of that, if it's not being protected because they think it's a hoax, then anybody can go out there and do anything they want to it, and who's going to stop them?
Right.
So
Okay.
maybe the guy's like, you know what, that's not right. It should be more like this, and then,
Yep. So hard telling, but anyway, it's evidence nonetheless. How good it is up for debate. Okay, so here let's get into some of the more recent stuff. This is from a website. It was August 24th of 2017. This article was issued, and I want to just kind of share an update. So, if you remember, I said, one of the big debunking things is no experts looked at this. Well, we've got a couple experts that have looked at this. Mohammed Ibrahim and Yusuf Abdel Hakim Aouyan. I butchered that one. Both who has studied ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, have visited the site. And take a look at it. They've come up with their own translation. We haven't even gotten to the translation yet. And weighed in on it now. The first thing I wanted to point out is that what they said is that when they looked at it more recently, they said, well, wait a minute. Some of these symbols weren't even discovered until 2012. So we've got a bunch of debunking. Remember when we said it was gibberish? It doesn't make sense. Wait a minute. There's too much of a chronological difference.
Yeah.
Well, these guys are coming out saying, well, wait a minute. It's containing symbols that we didn't even know about 5 years ago.
so that would have made it gibberish.
Yeah, so now it makes more sense, right? Stephen Strong, this is where I talked about Stephen and Evan Strong a little bit. He's been actively involved in this, and this is part of his group that has been studying the site. They discovered some carved labyrinths on the site as well now. 3 chambers, one of them is big enough that you could put a car in. Again, no mention of that in this debunking stuff. And it hasn't been touched really much in the last 5 years, except it kind of stops at 2012, then all of a sudden picks up again in 2017 with some new updates. And this is where I found some of this information.
It's interesting, brother, because I was going to ask if one of the brothers died there, did they find the sarcophagus, the body, the mummy, or something, So I was waiting to see if you get to that.
Yeah,
so I'm interested now.
I'll give you the spoiler.
Oh.
According to the story, when the living brother was rescued, they took the body with them.
Okay.
So that's the story. Okay, so they describe a couple shafts looking very straight, and straight lines in nature don't occur very often. And they've found additional evidence as well, including an artifact that is not made of lead or iron. Looks like to be a trinket, and what they say is a human bone, and even potentially an old cutting tool. This group with Stephen and Evan Strong and Yusuf and I forgot the other guy's name, Mohammed, also worked with the elders, the Aboriginal elders. Okay, so the Australian Aborigines, the original people, are involved in this, and they have their own lore around it too. And they say that, hey, wait a minute, this is a mixture of Aboriginal signs and ancient signs, and as well as ancient Aboriginal signs. So they're saying that it's multiple groups from this time on. That's their lore around it. Okay.
Okay.
I guess just to kind of wrap it up real quick here, some of the major points of evidence that have been newly discovered here that is still. Dan's going to kill me because
it's getting to get a lot of post work.
Yeah, God damn it. And there is some evidence here that I think requires some additional look because it's kind of new and fresh. And one, the series of tunnels that I talked about, and the size of the chambers that have been carved, found a new set of hieroglyphs in the area as well that we haven't seen here, but they're beginning to analyze those. So there's some new hieroglyphs. The engraved metal jewelry, I mentioned that. The bone they found, and the chisel. Okay,
yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're gonna tell us what the damn thing's supposed to say?
Yes,
because I've been dying this whole episode.
So here's the hieroglyphs and how they've translated. Okay.
Okay.
For His Highness the Prince, from this wretched place in this land where we were carried by ship, engraved for the crown of Lower Egypt according to God's word. My fellow Egyptian, all out from this place in this strange land for the god Sudi. I, Nefer Jeseb, that's one of the sons, son of Khufu, king of Upper and Lower Egypt, beloved by Ptah.
So there's still more yet.
Yeah, there's
Jesus.
more.
We ain't done.
How in the hell can they get that out of that?
Beloved by Ptah has brought the god Suti. The prince was kind and benevolent, follower of the sun god Ra, for 2 seasons, 8 months. He directed us eastward, weary but strong to the end, always praying joyful and smiting insects. He, the servant of God, said God created the insects to protect his people. I myself am hardened, have gone around hills and deserts in wind and rain with no lakes at hand, blessed by the falling nights when I hide myself completely out of reach. In our last camp, I cooked fowl on hand and brought rain, but hurt my back carrying the golden falcon standard, crossing hills, desert, and pools of water along the way. Plants are withering, land is dying. Is this our lot from the highest God of the sacred mare? The sun is pouring down upon our back. O mighty Khepera, this is not what the oracle has said. Our hearts are overturned, but not broken. This regal person, Nefer Tiru, that's the other brother, came from the temple of God in Penu, Egypt. He came from the house of God. He was the son of Khufu, king of Upper and Lower Egypt. He who died before is here laid to rest. So the son died. May he have life everlasting. He is never again to stand beside the waters of the sacred myrrh. Then clasp him, my brother's spirit, to thy side, O Father of the earth. That was east wall. Here's west wall.
Holy cow.
The snake bit twice. We, followers of the divine King Khufu, mighty one of Lower Egypt, lord of the 2 Adzes, we shall not all return. However, we have to continue. We cannot look back. All creek and river beds are dry, and we are dismayed. Our boats are tied up with rope. Death was caused by snake. We gave egg yolk from the medicine chest and prayed to Ammon, the hidden one, for he was struck twice. It was a hard time for all of us, weeping over the dead body and keeping to the protocol. Seated all aside, our men watched the funeral with concern and deep love, how the mummified body was buried in red earth section. Then we recovered ourselves. We walled in the side entrance to the chamber with stones from all around. The chamber was aligned with the western heavens. I counted and impounded the daggers of our men. The 3 doors of eternity were connected to the rear end of the royal tomb.
No way they could got all that translated like that. I call bull.
Yeah, you can.
Bull.
Yeah, look at all the stuff they have.
I was highly suspect of that as well, Dan. That's a lot to get out of 300 and some odd hieroglyphs, but...
Do any of you read hieroglyphics?
Can anybody else? These people have been dead for how long, though?
Well,
Where do they?
They have the Rosetta Stone.
Where has this gotten handed down at? Rosetta Stone?
Yeah, Pete went over. Were you paying attention at the beginning of the class?
I'm paying attention to all the behind the scenes
stuff.
What this means is that Dan doesn't give a shit about our episodes at all.
No.
He just sits there. He's like, I can ring the gong. Can I ring the gong?
When history stuff comes up, my brain shuts off.
Yep. And yeah, in your defense, you have said that. And secondly, if anybody out there would like to come in and run tech for us, so Dan can focus more on the episode, send us an email. We'll bring in.
And I think during his episode, I was just sitting here going like this.
I did forget your screen to turn the screen recorder on your episode. So.
That's right. Yeah.
So a couple quick takeaways, though. I thought it was pretty interesting. The new information, if you will, of some of the stuff that they found there, the new hieroglyphs that have been discovered since 2012 and understood since 2012, and check out some of the other translations.
Yeah.
They're not quite this wordy, and you kind of wonder if the folks are interpreting based on stuff they found, things of that nature.
Well, yeah, it's a freaking novel.
Well, I'd like to go ahead and see more people investigate this. I think right now it doesn't seem like there's a lot of people,
But most Egyptologists have just dismissed it,
That happens quite a bit too. If anything falls outside of their little realm of possibility, it's like, it's just fake.
Yeah, if it messes with the way they think about it, they don't want to deal with it.
Do we got a picture of this Rosetta Stone?
Oh, we can find one pretty quick.
Let's find one.
Yep. It's not going to help us translate the Egyptian
I'm curious
hieroglyphs.
how they even figured this out.
A couple other things too, Dusty. This is like in a national preserve. It's not like you can just drive up to it and go into it. You have to hike.
But hobos hike out there.
Yeah, apparently. And some of these hieroglyphs are up on the wall high enough that some sort of ladder or scaffolding would need to be required as well.
Stone. Otherwise, you're going to learn how to speak Japanese in 30 minutes.
This is what helped people decipher hieroglyphs.
So where's so what language is this?
Egyptian.
So,
hieroglyphs. Hieroglyphics. Yes.
So this is hieroglyph?
Yes.
So where's the...
It's a picture language, so every picture represents...
I get that.
Like Chinese.
Okay, Chinese.
Yeah, Chinese is a picture-based thing, or it used to be, or some shit like that.
So
this must have been some kind of maybe a teaching tool, or...
I'm guessing it somehow translated it. All I know is that they used it. So
was it like 3 languages involved in it?
I think so, right?
See, there you go. You have like Sanskrit and Egyptian.
That's what it was. Yeah, right. Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah. All I know is that they used it to help decipher hieroglyphs.
The best part is I looked at that.
So it's kind of like
I never dug into it, so
you discover the Russian language on a piece of paper. You have no idea what it means, but now you understand Spanish, and now you find another separate thing that says here's the Russian and Spanish translation, and so now I can convert that.
Like A for English. Apple, and then it's like, I don't know what an apple is, but
Okay.
Yep.
So, hieroglyphs, Egyptian writing, and Greek.
Oh, Greek writing. Yeah.
There it is. Yep.
There it is.
Very good. So
Sanskrit.
before we close, I would like to officially apologize to Dan and the amount of post editing work that I've created for him, and
which you probably won't.
We've talked about it before. We've discussed this before. On the show and off the show, and I'm working on it. It's tough.
The best thing is
it's implanted in 40 plus years of speech.
3 times
with me.
He's talking, and I'm doing this. I'm trying to get, because you know how Pete talks. Yep. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead.
Yeah, I'm very animated. Maybe I do need a mouthpiece.
You're not the only one. I had
Yeah.
Dale over here, and he's doing one of these, and he's back here. It's like, come on, man.
I'm looking at Pete going, hey.
It was so
Hey,
bad.
Steve Stone.
It was so bad. He was coming in my microphone.
Oh, really? As he was leaning over. Yep. I apologize. I got as long as we've been doing this, you'd think I'd get better at it.
It's who you are. It's who you are.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're just gonna have to take me the way I am, but I'll continue to work on it. I've been showering before the shows, so that's a big change.
That counts for something.
Yeah, right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this episode of Talk is Cheap. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm glad you put up with us. Have a great night.